If you use a glue gun in your crafts, you need to see these hacks. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 tips and tricks that can make your projects easier, cleaner, and honestly, so much more fun. From super simple DIY glue gun stands to creative ways of using your colored glue, some of these ideas have completely changed how I craft. And trust me, once we get to the tricks section later on, there's a couple of ideas in there that might make you wonder why you haven't tried them sooner. So let's jump in and start with some tips. The first thing I want to talk about is glue gun stands. And so if you don't have a glue gun stand, and if your glue gun doesn't already have one built in, an easy solution for a glue gun stand is just these binder clips. Now, you want to use the bigger ones, not the itty bitty little ones, because the itty bitty little ones don't do much good. And I'll show you here. So if you have a big one, all you need to do is put your glue gun into the hole and it will stand. Now, some glue guns will tip over, so like mine's on a cord and it's really light, so it will actually tip over even with this one. But with the small ones, it doesn't even really fit, right? And then you've got these other ones that are the medium size, and it doesn't really fit, and it's easier to fall over. But if you're worried about it falling over, all you need is a piece of cardboard that's longer than it is wide. And this is going to stop this whole thing from tipping over, and that's the wrong size. And so we want this one here. And so if you put your glue gun into this, now it's not going to tip as much. The clip won't tip because the paper is holding it in place. Now this isn't a beautiful looking stand, and that's okay. I've made one like this and it's pretty cool. Everything leaks inside, and I just made this from a piece of wood from the dollar store that I found. And I've left the link for that in the description of the video. So while you have your glue gun like this, you might realize, well, this is going to start to leak now, and it doesn't matter what kind of glue you use, the glue is going to leak. So the good stuff leaks, the bad stuff leaks. It's just depending on how much it leaks. And so you don't want the glue leaking on your table, because what's going to happen is that it's going to get stuck to your table, and you're not going to like that because it just doesn't work. It's hard to clean and it's no fun. So something that you can do is under your glue gun, you can put, and under your clip here, you can put a piece of paper underneath. And if you have lots of scrap paper, you can use your scrap paper for this. But the problem is that eventually you might start to use paper that you want to use. Like you might start having to use paper that you want to use, and you don't really want to be just wasting paper. So that works in a pinch if you want to, but I don't recommend that as your number one option. What I do recommend is either using Teflon paper or silicone pads to protect your workstation. Now I have lots of Teflon paper because I use it for when I'm HTVing, but this cleans really nicely. The nice thing about Teflon paper is that it will act like silicone paper, and once the glue dries, it will come off of the Teflon paper. So I'm just gonna let this cool down, and I'll show you how it comes off. Now that my glue is dried, all I can do is just simply pull it right off, and the whole thing comes off in one piece nicely, and it leaves my Teflon paper clean, and I don't leave a mess on my workstation. The next thing I want to talk about is finger protectors. These are super helpful when you're using a lot of glue. Now, I didn't know about these for the longest time, and I honestly regret not getting them sooner. You can get them in different sizes. The pack that I have has 3 different sizes, and so there's the large, medium, and small. And so with those, you can, just depending on what size your finger is, they work. But the nice thing about these is if you are crafting things and you have to hold things that are being glued together, it really helps you with your glue gun because you're not going to glue your fingers like so. And if you get glue on your finger, it actually doesn't burn you and cause any blisters, which is really important. And just so you know, I've linked all the supplies I'm using in this video in the description below. Not all glue sticks are equal, and so I've got long ones for my big glue gun and I've got short ones for my small glue gun. But the one problem is with the small glue gun is that once you get to a certain point, it's done, it won't go out anymore, right? But when you put this new piece in, let me see if I can make sure I get this on the right angle. The first few pushes that I do, you'll notice here, I'm going to push it here, and the glue's going to come out. Sorry, just to make sure it doesn't, the glue's going to come out. But this comes back, it doesn't push through. So now when I'm pushing my glue, it's not actually pushing my glue out anymore. And so I have to manually push this in until it's far enough into the feed tube to be heated up and sucked in. And so what I find is a pretty cool trick that you can do, especially with these short ones, is you can glue 2 glue sticks together. Now I'm just going to heat this up here like so, and then I'm going to simply attach it to another glue stick, and now I have a long glue stick. So now I can put this into my glue gun like so, and it's going to be a little bit longer and it's going to last better for me so that when I have to put the next one in, it's already lined up. Now when I have this in here, before it goes all the way in, I can heat the tip of another glue stick just like so, and then I can just attach it onto the end. Now I don't need this super long one, but we'll have it like that for today because I use enough glue that this will work. And so now we've got a super long glue stick, but it's not gonna, you can just have it when it's still in here, so you don't need to worry about doing it all beforehand. You can just do it as you go. Another helpful tip for when you're using your glue gun is sometimes when you're using glue, it'll get stringy. So you've got this like string of glue coming out after you're done. And a way to avoid this is if you put your glue down and then let your finger off your trigger and swoop the glue gun around a few times over where the glue is, and that's going to allow the glue to stop coming out of the gun and stop stringing. It takes a little bit of practice to get good at it, but once you get the hang of it, you'll have a lot less stringing in your glue. Okay, those are my favorite practical tips. If any of those are new to you, drop me a comment below and let me know which ones. Now, let's switch gears and move into some fun, creative tricks you can actually use in your projects. So a really cool thing about glue is that it comes in different colors, and so you can get it in different colors and in different sizes. So this is the size for the small glue gun, and I find that having a variety of colors is neat for two reasons, or a few reasons I should say. The first one is that if you are doing a project that is black and you don't want to have like clear glue showing up, you can use a black glue stick, or if you need red for a Halloween costume, you can use red. And so having these different colors allows you to match them with your project so that they don't stand out as much. Now you might not get the shades totally perfect, but they're still pretty cool to use like that. Another cool thing that we can do with our glue is if you have a design that you like and you want to frame it, for example, you can print it off and put it on top of parchment paper so that you can see the design. Now if you pull out your colorful glue, you can actually trace the image with your glue and make the design in a 3D glue fashion. And once that dries, we can just remove it and use it on other decorations. Now with this rose that we've got, we can put it into a picture frame and then frame it any way that we like. You can add it onto fancy paper or leave it the way that it is, and it gives it a little bit more depth and character in the final design. Another cool thing that we can do with our glue is we can have it turn into embellishments for our cards. So if I want to make some really nice colorful beads, especially with my colored glue, all I need to do is just squeeze a little bit of glue out onto my Teflon paper, and then I'm going to pull the glue up. Now these take a little bit more practice to make nice ones, but once you get the hang of it, you can make a bunch of little beads that can be used on accent pieces or embellishments on crafts. Now once these are dry, I can peel them off my Teflon paper, and then I can add them onto a card as a nice little addition onto. Now I can either use regular crafting glue, or I'm going to just use a dab of glue to place these on and have these as nice little accents and embellishments on my card. Add a few more on the other side here so that they look pretty. And now my card looks like that with some nice additions onto it. Another cool thing that we can do with glue is we can make designs with it, and so these can be used on cards or on embellishments or on scrapbook pages, and it takes a little bit of practice to get a good hand at it because they like to, I mean, it's like any craft, you have to learn how to do it, but it will, you can make these cool little pieces here. Let me just finish this one. You can also make different shapes like a heart. Once my shapes are dry, I can simply remove them from my Teflon page. Now if you've got silicone, you can use the silicone page instead. And now these can be added on to other things as well. I'm going to pull off these extra bits that I've got flying around here. But you can again put this onto a card and you can add it as an accent. Now these take a little bit more practice to add on, but they add a nice little addition to your designs. Now one of my favorites is using glitter with glue, and so similar to the beads that we did, I'm going to make some beads with my glue here, but I need to be quick with these ones because I have to sprinkle it with glitter. Now I can use big glitter or little glitter. I like the little glitter because I find it's kind of like fancy looking. And if I use the clear glue, the glitter that I use will sort of cover the whole color. I'm just gonna let those dry for a second and we'll use those on cards as well. Just gonna tip all of my glitter off onto my different sheets so that it doesn't make a big mess in my house. And now I have these glittery gems. And so again, I'm gonna add these onto, I'm gonna show these to you up close, but they look like this. So they've got a nice design to them. And all I'm going to do now is, again, I'm going to just glue these onto another card so that they add some sparkle to it, because I like sparkle. And now I've got some more sparkly gems on this card. And finally, one that I think is really cool is adding it onto an envelope to give yourself sort of a stamp. Now, people used to do this in the olden days with wax. Now, not everyone's got a punch with their family emblem on it, but what you can do is just put a penny on top, squish the penny down, and let it sit for a moment while it cools down. And then all we do is pull the coin out, and now we have a nice watermark in there from our penny. And our envelope is sealed all fancy like. And those are 10 glue gun tips and tricks that every crafter needs to know. I'd love to know which one is your favorite. And if there's a hack that you use that I didn't mention, drop me a note in the comments and let me know. Don't forget to check out the video description where I've left links to all the products that I've used in today's video. And finally, if you've enjoyed this video, check out these other videos that I have here. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting.